Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name is Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so that they can scale profitably. Today, I'm very, very excited because we have Rachel Saul and Chelsea Jones from Chelsea and Chelsea on the show. What's up, ladies? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. We're glad to be here.
I think that you're the first dynamic female duo that we've had on the show.
Yes, we love that.
We like being the first, and typically we're the only ones in this kind of circle. So it's rare to have women powerhouses in the tech space.
Totally. And Chelsea, you and I were talking about this last week at a convention that I saw you at. There aren't a lot of females in this industry, which is insane. You know, I don't understand why, but for whatever reason, there aren't a lot of females. So I'm glad that you all are representing, and we're happy to have you on the show.
Thank you.
All right. So we start off every show with kind of like a little roundtable discussion. And one thing that I am super excited to hear your stories about is that you were both elite level athletes growing up. And I know, Chelsea, before we jumped on, you said, you know, I still consider myself an athlete. And I think that that's true of anybody who's competed, trained and competed at a high level, is that being an athlete really does become a part of your personality. And even if you're not competing now in our, at least in my older age, I'll be 40 next month, I still consider myself an athlete. So, Rachel, you were an ice skater, and Chelsea, you ran the marathon in college. So I don't know which one of you wants to start. Okay, so I don't know who wants to start, but
I'll start.
Okay, great.
So I still am a competitive figure skater. So
Wow.
It is something that I do actively currently as well. So a little backstory on it. I grew up skating, and I'm from Florida, and yes, there are ice rinks in Florida. There's many of them. And I skated for about 7 years, and I quit for 19. And about 4.5 years ago, just in a space where, as you're building a business, as you're raising a family, you have a lot of things at you. Sometimes you got to find something for yourself. Mm-hmm. So I picked it back up purely as a hobby. Mm-hmm. And quickly, because of my high performance, high intensity, elite level training and thinking, I was quickly back to competing. And so currently I train 5 times a week, early in the mornings, like crack of dawn.
Yeah.
I am training currently right now to qualify for adult nationals for U.S. figure skating. So this is something I love. I'm passionate about. It motivates me. It challenges me. What's really cool is that I'm 37, and to find that I can still do new things, learn new things, challenge myself in new ways. It just is phenomenal. And it just translates across the board.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Chelsea, your turn. Tell us about the marathon run. I've never run a marathon. I'm not a runner. Lots of respect for you. Not my thing.
Well, I have a funny story of how I actually started running. So I was always a little bit of an entrepreneur and hard worker from the get-go. I was raised in a family like that. And I had my first job at age 14 at Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory.
Nice.
So as a newly high schooler eating chocolate all day, I started running just so I wouldn't gain 50 pounds. Mm-hmm. And out of running in high school, and I did cross country in high school and track, I realized that this was something that I needed to do for my head and mental space, and I was better at my studies because of it. So fast forward, after high school, I got into Pepperdine University, which is a D1 school in California. Mm-hmm. And they have an amazing track team. I was not so good to be on the track team, but they did have a marathon running group that I was a part of, and would get to run on the beach. And because I grew up in the mountains, I would run altitude. Running on the beach was no problem. So I did pretty well on my training and planning then. fast forward now 15 years later, and I don't run competitively in the marathons like I used to, but I still have that mindset and capability, and I do lower impact, like high intensity stuff. And like Rachel said, as a high performer, you just naturally have to keep something focused in your head and your mind and your body because it all works together. And now as we scale and grow with our Shopify sites, it's been really fun to see how I have to have a mental space to kind of keep something going. So I'm really into biking now and Pilates. It's kind of my new thing. But as a whole, marathon running has really, I think the mental side that you do from going through that can set you up for anything.
That's great. So what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned through athletics? Chelsea, why don't you start?
Honestly, I would say the mindset piece. Like in business, mindset's really important, but in athletics, it's hugely important. Your body can do a lot more than you think it can. And the first thing that you're going to quit when it comes to running is in your head. And then your body is second. So once you get past that push point where you're like, I need to get to that next street, and you just keep telling yourself the next street, your body can keep going at it, even when your mind is telling you not to. So for me, that's been, I think, the huge piece of it.
Yeah. And I want to just like talk about that too, because, in athletics, body language tells you a lot about the confidence of that athlete, right? Like if you ever watch an athlete, like in soccer, if they're going to go take penalty kicks, you can tell by their body language if they don't want to be there. And that person will usually miss. But what's funny, at least that I've noticed, is that body language in business tells the same thing. Like you can tell an employee, no matter what it is that they're doing, if their body language sucks, then they're probably not going to do a good job that day. But you can change those things, like you as a leader, you can step in and you can help to get that person refocused or figure out what's going on or help them see the bigger picture. So like I in many ways you're like a coach, you can get that person back into that peak performance state. So
yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny because, people kind of flock together a little bit. I actually married an elite athlete. He was a professional gymnast. And I think what that has taught me, he was in a very different realm and world than I was. Like that's high performance training every day nonstop, Olympic training center stuff. But I've learned a lot through kind of our conversations in that, whereas I had more of the long-term marathon game of longevity. Like his was like the short and like intensity, like trainings. And, there's got to be both. There has to be that concept of how do you have body language that comes across confident, but also just understanding you need moments of rest, you need moments of recovery, and then you have to like pick back up.
Yeah, totally. All right, Rachel, what's your answer to that? What's the biggest thing that you've learned from competitive athletics?
I think there's two things. The most important thing is diligence and training. So you get to a point where you are trained enough that your body is able to execute. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes diligence and consistency and mental space. But once you get to that point, you just can, in the moment, so with figure skating, you're executing a program, you're executing technical jumps, spins, footwork. It just gets to a point where you just operate. And with that, you get to a point where you know that you can do it, and you don't second guess yourself. Same thing with business. I think, you spend a lot of time training and mastering your craft. And at a point in time, you just step into this role where you just have to execute. You know what you can do. You know how to get it done. And you have to trust your instincts in your body to do that. That's pretty much the first and foremost one. I just want to tag on with what Chelsea said, too, with the mindset. It is all about knowing that you're fully capable and not allowing the negative mind who wants to tell you otherwise, that either you're tired, you're fatigued, your legs don't work, you're going to fall. All of those things that go through your head, you have to silence them because you will fall into that. It's a crazy mental trap. And I think the same thing happens in business. You just have to cut it off. You have to walk in what you know and to go on the training that has gotten you to the point where you are today. So.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's start talking about the agency. That's why everybody's here. So tell us about what it is that you do and how you got started.
Great. Well, I'll jump in and then Rachel can add in some of our details. So we are a Shopify Plus Premiered Partner agency. So we specialize in design, development, and digital marketing strategy for enterprise level e-commerce. So that's kind of a mouthful, but like as a whole, what we have really done and how we started about 5 years ago, Rachel and I were each individually working in this space. I was in design and development. She was in digital marketing. We got pulled in on a project together to launch a Kickstarter campaign for a new company. Not only did we help launch that successfully, but we realized, and we did it in 3 weeks, by the way, it was kind of a miracle unicorn story.
Wow.
But we also realized how well we loved working together and how our skill sets really complemented each other, that we needed to do something that could have the clear digital marketing strategy piece that Rachel was great at with the design and development so that they could work together. Fast forward 5 years, we have a team of 15 people, and we are constantly ebbing and flowing and executing in quality development, design, and strategy. And as a whole, we love what we do. There's new challenges every day. But the other neat thing for those of you in this space that understand Shopify and the e-commerce realm, it's a big process to get on the Shopify Premier Plus partnership. So we've had to build out so many Shopify Plus stores. We've had to have so many case studies and a lot of longevity in this platform. And that's really become our niche and our focus. So we love taking people to that next level with e-commerce. Most of our clients usually have a wholesale and a retail component, and we help manage their retail and their e-commerce and give them the tools they need to have a successful, thriving company.
Oh, that's great. E-com is notoriously difficult. These projects are, depending on the size of the store, if it's 2 products, it's not hard. But when you have thousands of SKUs or even hundreds of SKUs, these projects can, for a lot of people, consume all the resources. And so it's very hard for them to take on, more than a few products in a year, let alone, a few products in a month. What are some of the things that have helped you all to be successful?
Sure, I'll tag in there. I think to have a very clear strategy up front is what's going to make you successful. Setting expectations at the very beginning of what you choose to go after, what are, let's say, the easy barrier to entries for a new customer, the products that have the best margins. What are some of those things that we will outline that will be the first step into developing a successful, whether it's a campaign, SEO strategy, email marketing strategy, overall site design. There's all different things that can play into that, but really having clarity on what it is that you're going to focus single-handedly on. And, we do work with clients that have a couple of SKUs up to tens of thousands of SKUs on their website. And it's not a one-size-fits-all type of approach. It's really about understanding, what are the primary business objectives and goals, and then how can we use and leverage the digital marketing technologies and applications and strategies to really take them from point A to point B.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and just to add on that really quick, I think it's communication-led. One thing Rachel and I do very differently, I think, than other big agencies in our space, and partly I think us being women helps with that, is the fact that we want to understand really the psychology of the problem. So we're really big on communication-led first. Each company is going to have its own unique facets. The tools can be the same, but if you don't have a clear understanding of the problem you're trying to solve and then scale at the beginning, then you're setting yourself up for disaster. So I think that's really key.
Gotcha. Now, why Shopify? Why did you both get involved with Shopify at the beginning?
So great question. So I have a background in WordPress development as well, in Shopify, and I've also done some Drupal, some Magento, like all the pieces. When you're in development, you kind of have to see what kind of carts are out there. Our focus became on Shopify, honestly, for a couple of reasons. One, I think they have the leadership and ability as a company to really take it to the next level with quality development that doesn't always require custom. The biggest problem I see with like BigCommerce and some of these pieces in Drupal is you're always having custom development on it, and things break often. And with Shopify, they've really put the money into it as a company. They've leveraged, if you just Google their stock options, you see that in the last 5 years, right? They've like quadrupled, doubled down, et cetera. But they invest back into their partnership, into their, into the way that they've built their community and their partnership platform. So it's really helpful. It becomes a long-term strategy of we all rise together, and the better teams that you have, the better you're going to do. So I would say that's in a nutshell why we've chosen Shopify, and they just have a really great support system, and I can talk directly to their engineers when we have a problem. So that's huge.
Oh, cool. Was there ever a point where you're like, I don't know if we want to go all in on Shopify. Like, were you ever considering saying, "Hey, we'll do BigCommerce, we'll do WooCommerce, we'll do all these other things," and then you had to draw the line in the sand and say, "No, we're just going to do Shopify"? Did you ever have to do that?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, we definitely get pulled into a lot of like the WooCommerce and some of the BigCommerce stuff. But I would say now, like, I just take a lot of time in the front end to listen to the client on what do they really want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And hands down, most of the time, like 99% of the time, they don't want something that's going to be heavily customized all the time. They want to have ability to do some things and update stuff themselves. And Shopify is just the best platform for that, without having like, we as professionals can build them the house, but then with Shopify being their host, then they are responsible for that as well. So you have this element of house on a good foundation that doesn't have the walls break out from under you. That is really appealing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Rachel, did you have anything to add? I couldn't tell if you wanted to say something.
I think from a customer centric position, we build custom design, right? So what we love about Shopify is that we're able to, we can build custom, but in a modular way where our clients can take it and do whatever they want with it. So to me and to our clients, we know how critically important that is. In-house management is crucial, especially when you have nimble companies who are scaling and growing. Things are constantly changing. So the ability to design and code the way that we want to for our clients in that capacity is just the way we do it, and it supports it significantly. So I think that's really critical as well for us and our decision to just go really full into Shopify.
Gotcha. Rachel, a few minutes ago, I thought I heard you talking about how when you're doing your strategy with your client at the beginning, you'll help them to identify, like what products are selling, which ones are not, which ones you want to promote. I mean, that to me, it sounds like that can be a rather tricky conversation to have with the client, because sometimes, they're emotionally attached to something that we know might not necessarily be working. How do you go about having that conversation with their clients so that, you're not angering them?
I love data, and data doesn't lie. So every decision that I make and I propose always is backed up by some factual data that shows, is this performing? Why is it not performing? What are some of the key indicators that, you love this product and yes, it's beautiful, but there's just some things about it that doesn't quite make sense. Right. So data is critically important. It takes the emotion out of it as much as possible. And also educating the client. I mean, a lot of clients think that everything is equally weighted. And unfortunately, that's not true. Especially when you're looking at developing campaigns, if you don't have an unlimited resource and budget, you can't promote everything. So it's a matter of, really when it comes down to what clients want is results. So what are the things that will bring results? And really, what are the products that we can push that not only are attractive to your audience, but have great margins that you'll see the most profit from it. So
could you give us an example? You don't have to use names, and obviously don't tell us what client this was, but just give us an example of a client who maybe was emotionally attached to a product that wasn't selling, and how you use the data to flip it around and have them see, hey, we needed to take a different route.
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. And I think this is really interesting because I'm working through something similar right now with a client. And so what we were able to do is take a look at historical analytical data and looking at site traffic, looking at organic traffic, inbound paid traffic, referral traffic, direct traffic, all of that. And looking at the data profile of not only time on site, time on page, bounce rates, customer journeys through that. We use Hotjar for tracking, things like that. And being able to utilize all of those points of collection to showcase that this one particular collection of products, although beautiful to look at, are just, they're not moving the needle when it comes to conversions. They get stuck on the product description is a little short. The images are beautiful, but it's not really a price point that's being added to cart frequently. And we see a trend in other similar types of products that are a little bit lower priced that was getting a lot more traction when it came to all these other data points that allowed us to say, okay, well, now we have some information here. Let's do a test and see which collection is going to come supreme over the other one, and then be able to A/B test our campaigns and get some more data on that. So it can be a tricky process. Clients are creatures of habit, and so they sometimes are hard to convince. But when you show them results of, work that was implemented because of data, the emotion does come out of it a little bit. So
great. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. What are some of your tracking tools that you're using, just out of curiosity, for, showing all the data?
Yeah. So, Google Analytics is first and foremost. We use Hotjar. Mm-hmm. We use Facebook Pixel, Pinterest Pixel, remarketing pixel, all of the pixels we use. Some clients will use Optimizely and see what's working. We use Klaviyo for email marketing, and their pixel data is fantastic as well, especially how it APIs through with all the Shopify customer profile data. Occasionally, we'll use some dynamic specific pixels for like button call to actions and things like that. Mm-hmm. That's about, holistically what we use. We'll use also other platforms if the clients are really interested in diving deep, like Glue, which is an analytical data aggregation type of platform that gives us a lot of high-level metrics and specific benchmarks. So for certain clients who like to dig really deep, Glue is a partner that we use as well. Am I missing any other ones, Chelsea?
One thing, because we think Shopify all the time, Shopify Plus has a really detailed module of Google Analytics and data that they're collecting. Mm-hmm. So we can know at an instant point, like what their conversion rate is, what their overall, AOV is, where their sources from, their channels, their links. So from a high level perspective, it's great, like in one platform, that we can also have the CEOs look at that data instantly. So Rachel's answer to that is true. We use a lot of other parties as an agency to make sure we have all this accurate data. And as everyone knows, data can have some discrepancies. Mm-hmm. But the beautiful thing about Shopify and all of the modules that they collect is that's where the money is going to the bank, right? You can know exactly like, oh yeah, we had 100,000 visitors and now we had, we just hit over 100,000 in sales this month, and here's the conversion rate. Let's optimize that, etc. So That's pretty fantastic.
Wow. All right. So you were talking earlier about your team, and you have a pretty big team. You have 15 people, I think is what you said earlier. Like, how do you go about managing all those people? I know because, I have a decent amount of employees as well. What's your secret to being able to managing your team?
Communication, I'd say, first and foremost. Clarity. That's our favorite word. Making sure that everybody understands exactly what needs to be done. When you have a lot of moving parts, like every agency does, mm-hmm. It can get a bit chaotic. So understanding the communication on every point with every client and every project. We do have teams that work on groups of clients, and we allocate the team based on the needs of the project. We do have some team members who are more versed in a certain niche and industry than another team based on their, just what they're really great at. So it's all about communication, organization, of our project management, and that's from my perspective, making sure that we're always talking. That's really the only way it works.
Agreed. And I think what's interesting about our team is it's remote as well. So like my office is in South Denver. Rachel's is in Florida. Our team members are across the country in the US based on talent and location. And then we use Slack a lot internally. So Rachel's absolutely correct. It's all about communication, setting up the things from the beginning. Like I said, what we do is build houses for companies, like in the foundation of Shopify Plus. Is the same with our team. Like we have a house in a way, even if we're not location dependent, and we just have to make sure our culture, our communication, everything kind of has a guidelines and a process to it. And Rachel and I are really transparent. We like to lead by example as leaders. So I will say our biggest thing is making sure that communication is led first, that we also are communicating well, but also, we understand sometimes mistakes happen, and we'd rather people learn from them and grow accordingly than to not have that.
Perfect.
I think it's really critical. Chelsea and I are both moms, and we're both raising kids too. So I think that we have that component of you raise a child up in the way that they're to go, right? And so a lot of that takes heartbreak when something isn't done correctly, but as a parent that if they don't learn their own lesson, they'll repeat it, right? Yep. They don't know why. So a lot of time in just managing our team is the same thing. Like we've been there, we've made mistakes, we screwed stuff up in our work history. We do it still as leaders. It happens. We're people, we're humans. But to make sure that our team is fully equipped and they have all the necessary information they need from us to be successful. And when those times do happen, like we love them and we help them to figure out what to do differently next time.
That's great.
And I've also found that like if there are problems that happen, like the more you address that well and accurately and hear and listen to the problems and make people feel and clients feel heard and respected, like the better it's always going to be. So we've seen that across the board too. I think that's what kind of sets us apart a little differently is we understand that things are going to rise in tech. It's how you handle it and approach it in the fire that makes a difference.
Awesome. All right. So what's next for you in your agency? What's the next big thing that we're going to hear about what you two are doing?
Besides conquering the world? Just kidding.
Yeah, no, I love that.
So 5-year goals, I would say we want to make a big statement in the food space and the retail space when it comes to Shopify Plus and enterprise level. I think food is the next real focus and niche for us. We love working with healthy brands, unique things like Bobo's Oat Bars and Aloha Food and creative snacks that allow people now access to food in a whole new way, leveraging the internet and leveraging direct to consumer from a manufacturer standpoint. So for us, I think that's our focus and our niche. Rachel and I really want to be more in the speaking and influencing realm in the next 5 years. And we really see that in a leadership kind of concept of where we're going, how we're growing. We want to make sure our team is taken care of, paid well, and love what they do on a day-to-day basis, and always growing in that space as well.
That's great. I mean, well, you're already on the Operation Agency Freedom Show, so tap that or put that influencer label on your shirt now. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the show. We're about out of time. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
So we have a couple channels. Obviously, we're on all the social elements, but I think the best way is just jump on chelseaandrachel.com. It's easy to spell and remember, CHELSEAANDRACHEL.com. And we have a few opt-ins and freebies for you there. If you are in the e-com space, and especially Shopify, we have a 7-figure checklist that you can download for free. And we have a product description page option, like white paper that we've created on how to increase views on your product descriptions. So there's a lot of fun stuff there. We'd love to chat. You can reach us directly on our site and click connect.
Great. And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
Honestly, so like even though we really focus on the high level enterprise e-commerce, we've been building out a piece for the smaller e-commerce space. So I think, if you're an enterprise level, like that's our bread and butter, we'd love to help you. But we want to start, and we actually have already in the works, a coaching consulting piece for lower level e-commerce. And so we're kind of testing the waters with that and interested in helping anybody that wants to sell products online and scale them up with the right foundation.
Great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Definitely agency owners, if you have any struggles with e-com, definitely talk to Chelsea and Rachel, because maybe there's a referral opportunity or they can teach you something. So use them as a resource. They are definitely, at least for me, they're my go-to for big, high enterprise level e-com stores. So thank you all for tuning in today, and make sure you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.